we're ready to go in deeper. I feel like I want to lean in, but I probably should stay more balanced with the camera. So with that, thank you again for being here. I acknowledge this opportunity. I acknowledge this privilege. I'm acknowledging so many things are coming together through the technology, the electricity that it takes to connect us all, the wiring, all the materials, the ways that we are being woven together spiritually, physically, and through the technology. And so may we co-create something fun and nurturing to our souls. And Tara, thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity with you and everybody here. We're setting a stage here for this circle, this sense of witnessing each other in this moment. And I got to meet you in 2017, I believe. I remember calling you kind of at random and just putting out a random message to you, like, I'm really interested in this and I want to just jump in. And we had a phone call and feeling so grateful for your open heart. And I did not know at all at that moment that you were involved with Naked and Afraid. I just remember seeing like a ad on Facebook because I was searching for more retreats around connecting with the earth, and it just kind of connected us through that setup. And I've always been so amazed at how you've been willing to share. I remember in the first retreat, I had a lot of questions, and I was probably at a very, I know we're always growing, but I just remember feeling, compared when I look back to that time, just maybe annoying with all my questions, like naive or not knowing how to really approach the questions in an appropriate way. And yet I felt your patience and what witnessed your modeling of taking deep breaths and acknowledging maybe where I was at. And through this time, I've always felt you being supportive of my excitement to be learning and growing. And you've offered so many opportunities for that. And when I started talking about my dream of creating a podcast and talking with people about so many topics that are relevant to how we shape a beautiful time on the earth together, like a sense of peace and well-being. I've talked about it for years and you've held me accountable. And I want to say thank you for that. And as I've witnessed you, I've really appreciated the way that you connect with people with a sense of seeing who they are. You want to know them from a sense of their curiosities and helping them grow their skills and even invite them into many different kinds of challenges that they didn't even know they were ready for. And and I thank you for that. I thank you for the way you help people with your skills, your natural ability as a teacher. I know that's one of the places that you've started was in education. And I hope that we can start by talking about your time on Naked and Afraid, because there's a really interesting story, in case people haven't heard it, around how you got connected with the earth. And a sense, when I say that, I mean like a sense of awareness that there's a relationship opportunity, there's a consciousness the earth has that will interact with us. And for me, uh, I think as we talk about these things, we help to make it more safe for people to talk about. And maybe we can begin there.
Yes, thank you, Angeluna. First, it's an honor. Oh my gosh, that you're interviewing me, and I absolutely love this space. And thank you for opening your heart to have these sacred conversations. So bringing the conversations that we've had one-on-one to community. Um, yes, so we're gonna start with Naked and Afraid, I guess. Yes. Um, Yeah, so my experience on Naked and Afraid, of course, is a pretty unique one. Maybe not as unique now as it was in 2015 because there's so many cast members now. But that was a really turning point in my life. At that time in my life, I was working in the social services field and I was in an unhealthy marriage and with a beautiful daughter in the family. And at the time, my life was shifting and changing before I filmed. And it was like unconsciously, I was following this path and doors were open. And I was invited to apply for this television show called Naked and Afraid that I hadn't heard about. And the casting company found me on a blog that I used to write about having adult ADHD, and I talked about my wilderness therapy background and things. And I applied for the show, and I was cast really quickly. And the concept of the show is no clothes, no food, no water, and you're there with a partner, and you have to survive. And I have the skills, and I had the skills at that time to survive for 21 days naked in a Panamanian jungle with thousands and thousands of bug bites all over my body. But I went into that challenge like, yeah, I'm gonna kick ass, you know. And it really humbled me. And it really brought me back to who I was meant to be because I had drifted away from my sense of whole self and turned my relationship with Gaia, with Mother Earth, into something much more intimate. I slept on her breast on the ground, right, for 21 days, 20 nights, skin to skin. And she really recentered and regrounded me to transform into what was going to come after the show. And so the experience out there was very much more about unconsciously building my relationship with Mother Earth. I had over 600 nights underneath the stars before that challenge, but I had never just been with her. I was always doing, much more different than just being.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Mhm. The being and the doing is an interesting awareness. How do you describe that discernment? Because sometimes it can get so caught up. We think we're being, but we're actually doing as we're being. How do you describe that discernment?
Yeah. So, and I'm going off of my own experience. So I also used to be an outdoor guide and wilderness therapy, and there was always a place, a destination to hike to, right? Accountability for others. So I was guiding other people and keeping them safe. And even and I even hiked the Colorado Trail, right? Most of it was done with a friend, and then parts of it was solo just by myself. I still wasn't, at times I was just being, but I was still doing because I had a point to get to before the storm set in. I had to, set up a tent. I was on a very linear trail so I wouldn't get lost. And so just being is so much more different. I'll describe it as there's no goals, there's no outcomes, nothing to do but just to be, sit with the earth. And whether that's 21 days or 21 minutes, right? Just being,
Mhm.
smelling, touching, breathing with the earth. And you've experienced that as well in Earth Tantra Retreat Level 1.
Mhm.
So, mhm.
Mhm. And our vision quest that we took, I
Very
felt
vision.
was really a good opportunity for that.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Dallas for many of my years, and it's just interesting how you can become so disconnected, a sense of not really having any opportunity to take your shoes off and be outside. And uh, I think that a lot of people, if you look at the demographics of how people are gravitating towards bigger cities on Earth, probably a lot of people could say at this time on Earth that they're in a city life experience, and that is definitely different than an opportunity, and I say opportunity, but an experience where we don't have electricity, running water, and we have lost so much knowledge of the plants and the animal life around us, and what it can really feel like to have relationship with that. And so I think a lot of people may not even, I'm trying to speak to that population. If you're living in a city or you're living in an experience where you just have a life that is not really uh, connected to the land, where you don't get to put your hands on the soil, you're not growing your own food or gardening with flowers, or just going outside and playing regularly. I say playing because to me, I hope we never get too old to play. How can people who maybe have never heard of Tantra and never gotten many of these experiences, how can Tantra help build that relationship as they feel maybe a craving, a yearning inside? Uh, I want to start getting to this type of life. Like the show Naked and Afraid models for us, you know, you can do this. This is a challenge, but there was a time where it's kind of where a lot more people were at. And we've, as a civilization, through modernization, we've lost so much of that. So how do you see weaving tantric practices and inviting people in through tantra into that deeper relationship with the livingness of the earth?
Hmm. First, I would like to comment too that not all Naked and Afraid experiences were like mine. Some are much more intensive and there's not as much downtime. I had a lot of downtime, which was ended up being a really beautiful gift and the flow of everything to just be. So I wanted to just kind of clear that as well. Um, and yeah, so how do we bring, how do we weave? So Tantra is all of life, right? Tantra is the relationship with self, the relationship with others, the relationship with nature, and beyond. From birth, as we grow through life, childhood, our ancestors, so even before birth, through our adulthood, even death and beyond. And I think most people don't understand that about Tantra. They just think, oh, it's about sex, right? That's a very small piece of the pie. So Tantra is all of life. So I'm really glad that you're bringing this up. And so, what is our relationship when we talk about nature? Do we weave the the messages, the gifts, the healing components of nature into our life? And I think that's one thing that's a very specialty area of Earth Tantra. There's a lot of other people that might weave in nature and just being and becoming intimate. So, right, we use the word connection a lot, and it's not wrong or right if you use it. And I also think that sometimes the word connection is used a little loosely. And in Tantra, we make love with life, right? So why not make love become intimate with the richness of nature through the elements, through the life around us, above eye level and underneath the ground. There's so much more that we can't even see in the communication with the trees. And I could probably go off on just an hour of just that, but yes.
Have you ever had an experience where you felt there was a way you were being spoken to? I would imagine there's probably many, but something that comes up to mind in this moment that you could speak to.
Yes. I'll share two specific experiences. The first one is when I was hiking the Colorado Trail and I was alone and I was caught in a very dangerous lightning storm way above tree line. And, it was going to be like way over an hour before I could even kind of start seeing the trees. It's the highest point before Silverton along the Colorado Trail. And my hair started to stand up, and if you've been in that electric charge, it's on your neck. Your hair actually starts lifting, little pieces start lifting, your arms. And I remember, and I was in my early 20s then, right? So like nothing like no spiritual components that I've woven into my life that I had then. But I remember thinking, I'm like, if I die right now, I'm going to be I'll I'll die doing something that I absolutely love, hiking alone in the woods. Or well, I wasn't in the woods, I was above tree line, but just hiking alone and I with the earth and I just this calm peace came over me. And I would say that was my first really true authentic message that came through. And the second one was one night. I've had many more, but these ones really stand out and like laying that foundation was while I was filming Naked and Afraid. And one night I was sleeping and the fire was going and we barely slept every single night. So you're running on a lot of kind of I called it like bubblehead or something, out of body experience. And I was just kind of sleeping on the ground. I can't even remember when it was now, but it was maybe like at least 2 weeks in. And I could feel the pulse of the earth underneath my body. And I had never felt that before. To be so in tune with that. And I've only felt that one other time since then, like truly felt the pulse of the earth. And I don't even think there needs to be like a heady message around that. It's just life. It's her, the earth. Yeah.
Mhm. Like a heartbeat, like
A
a,
heartbeat.
hmm. And when we're breathing together, it's almost like we're synchronizing our heartbeats, our spiritual flow. And I know a lot of scientists will talk about the Schumann resonance, and like there's websites you can go to measure or see where it's at for the day, and maybe there's a correlation going on in the collective consciousness of how the humans are behaving on Earth right now. It's like, man, maybe because the Schumann resonance is spiking, or but when you talk about feeling that, did it literally feel like the earth was moving, or did it feel like on a subtle, because I know there's our five senses. I'm showing 10 fingers, but five senses, and and there's more senses beyond that. How did you sense it?
Oh, it came up through the earth, percolated, resonated in my body. I wasn't, like physically convulsing or anything, but it was like a whom, whom. It's like I could hear it in me too. Very, very distinct. Very distinct. Mhm.
If you could speculate on like what how humans would behave if we checked in with that every day, what do you think would be possible, or how do you think that would shape society? That's a really big question. What comes up first? Like just like right off.
Well, well, from what I understand, there's people who can feel it pretty frequently. Um, I don't have that gift of feeling it frequently. Um, and I also feel like, and this is just because I do belong to one of those Facebook groups that that share the Schumann resonance daily and throughout the day. And I know I don't check it every day, but sometimes something will pop up in my feed. Um, and some people are very, very sensitive to it and they can feel it constantly. And also their emotions. So the shoot, and I also have a an earth science teaching degree, right? So this is like the nerdy side of my brain coming out, right? So the Schumann resonance, right? 7.83 hertz. And sometimes it spikes up pretty high, like you were talking about. And a lot of that also has to do not only externally away from the earth, but the life on Earth. And I don't know if you or anybody that's listening remembers, but if you remember during the pandemic, the resonance calmed during that time where there was hardly any traffic driving, planes, etc., on the crust, on the skin, on the surface of the earth, cars, trucks, trains, whatever mode of transportation was almost at a not full cease, but close to it. And she settled and stayed more true to that 7.83 hertz, which is mind blowing to think. So coming back to your question, building our relationship with her, even just putting your hands or your feet on the earth, grass, stone, mud, dirt in your backyard, in a park, that vibration enters the skin and enters the body and has huge, massive positive health effects on us. And if we think about our ancestors, they were in tune with her, they slept on her, right? Ate on her, made love on her, gave birth on her, ate on her, sat on her. And our society has just increasingly separated ourselves from her. So I would invite everybody that's listening to try and welcome that back into your life.
And I feel like that goes back to that first question too, of how, to me, that's such a like a powerful introductory tantric practice of allowing your senses, allowing your skin to skin contact with even a tree, even if you're in a big city, allowing yourself to feel that. If there is a sensation and if there's not something super um, intense, it doesn't mean nothing's happening, but just noticing that your nervous system may even just feel a little more calm, and starting with that biofeedback experience, and maybe starting by looking for that biofeedback experience. But it is possible to calm down so much, get quiet enough to start feeling a sense of clarity, like this thought came through and I don't know that this was my thought. And I know that can be in such a realm of woo woo and speculation sometimes, but at the same time, it's to me how you develop that relationship by really wanting to be present.
And
And
you really, oh, go ahead.
no, 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 you.
And you really brought up that good point of we always talk about in our tantra and other tantric teachers and guides tuning into the subtleness of the sensations, those most minute sensations that we often skip over because of that practice of stop, connect, listen, and trust, right? We don't stop to really tune in.
Mhm. Well, we were kind of both talking about how there's probably for a lot of people a lot going on, things to distract us, or if we're not able to touch the earth or be on that space, be skin to skin with the earth, then our electromagnetic field in our body is already not grounding. And then there's another level of what's coming in. We know all these chakras are kind of like antenna, and so with technology rolling out, 5G is, as we're the year 2025, it's just getting so prevalent to see all the advertisements for 5G. And for me, I get the bubble guts, I get nervous. I'm like, oh my God, I do not want this. I'm trying to keep my dumb phone. And yet at the same time, I don't want to get behind the times. I don't want to be irrelevant on Earth or with people, but yet I keep thinking about how one of my concerns is the inundation of all kinds of frequencies. We know the earth has a sense of sharing this Schumann resonance that we're calling it, and it can even be felt. And with all this technology rolling out, how do you, I know you've spoken to this with ADHD, and like how people can get really distracted and yet how people can get really grounded. But what do you see is your biggest concern with the way technology is rolling out, or what people might overlook through this experience?
Mm-hmm. I think balance is really important, and that might look different for each of us, depending on how we live our life. Um, Technology detox is 100% a thing, whether that's for 3 days or 3 months, if you could go 3 months these days without it. Um, it's a confusing time. It really is. But finding that balance too of that detox, even if it's in micro moments throughout the day. So separating yourself, and I'm just going to use the phone as an example, because I'm like plugged into my phone right now. um, Leaving your phone indoors in your car and walking at the park, sitting in your backyard without your phone. Because even when we touch the earth, yes, that vibration is with us, but when we have that phone, next to us, and it's still tracking us, even if it's off, right? That little pinging thing. Um, I think is a really healthy practice, a really healthy practice. So when we move into a practice of earthing, is what it's called when you touch the earth skin to skin. Sometimes it's confused with grounding. A grounding practice can be done in a meditation. You don't have to be touching the earth. However, earthing is a grounding practice. So I just kind of wanted to differentiate the two. Removing yourself from technology really helps you to build that relationship authentically. And I think fear keeps us separated from that as well. So, oh, I can't walk in the park without my phone. What if somebody calls? Or, I don't know, whatever it might be. But I want to listen to my music. I don't, stepping outside of our comfort zones, right? Like society, well, we have to be comfortable in every single situation. Like we really learn and grow and expand in that yellow zone. And in Earth Tantra, we talk about a lot about like that red balloon. We have like our hard no boundaries, but stretching that or thinking it as like a green light, a yellow light, and then that hard no stoplight. We grow the most in those uncomfortable situations, knowing that, 99.9% we're going to be okay and we're going to be safe, right? Really giving ourselves permission to separate. And that can be a lot. Like that in itself could even be fear for some people.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
I don't
Mm.
know. And I feel like this can be done in so many different ways. All you need to physically touch the earth is, you know, foot by foot, square patch of earth to put your feet on. You can
Mhm.
stand up. You don't even have to sit down. You can sit in a chair and just put your feet on the earth if you're immobile in some ways and you need to sit in a chair. So expanding, expanding on that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I'm thinking about in this time, this date is February 3rd, we're in the year 2025, and there's so many different topics coming out regularly in news and I know technology, artificial intelligence is one that there's just so much debate about when you talk about having fear and it's hard to know what's coming because we're all kind of speculating where it's going to go and so given that we may be sitting with some fear with that or maybe there's no fear at all, but what do you think is the the message at this point for somebody like 100 years from now that's going to see this video? What kind of things do you want people 100 years from now to know about our relationship with technology and your intention of how it will ripple out to them?
Yeah, it's going to be so archaic then. I can't even imagine what it's going to look like 100 years from now. Um, yeah, it's growing so exponentially, and I'm not a tech person at all, so I have no idea. Um, but the one thing that comes up for me right now, and I think this is very alive for me today because of the book club that we're engaging in right now, Introduction to Tantra by Lama Yeshe, and I've read this book many times, and I don't know, this is like starting back from the first time that I read it with you, that it was offered back in what, like 2018, the fall of 2018. Oh my gosh, before it was even open um, to other Earth Tantra family members. The only thing that limits us, whether that's fear and moving forward in whatever direction, whether it's removing technology or welcoming it in, is our own limitation. We hold ourselves back from whatever direction we want to go in. And so I think that that's a message that's been tried and true for thousands of years in the past and will still be true for thousands of years in the future. And I think it's up to the individual to find that balance and how we want to live our most authentic life. Maybe that is through AI. Maybe it's the rejection of, I don't know. We're each different. At some point, I mean, it already is filtered into many different facets right now on Zoom, right? We're connected into AI. When we walk outside, things are tracking us. Like, I don't, yeah, I don't really have an answer, but that message feels good to share.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
When you bring up the book Intro to Tantra by Lama Yeshe, it brings up another burning question for me about what you just said and how that can also be one of the biggest golden nuggets I took from that book is there's an opportunity through tantric practices to really create a conscious living experience and dying experience. So much so that in those last moments, those last breaths, you're aware of the organs shutting down, you're aware of the release of spirit and aware of your state of beingness. Um, what would you like to share, or could you share that feels good in this
Mm,
moment for people sitting with death in many forms, ego death,
mm,
or witnessing somebody dying and sitting with them? And I use that word dying. I personally feel like we are never born, we never die, but I also think there's a transformation that we can observe. And when you're witnessing transformation in people's life in many forms, either the literal physical leaving of our body, um, or shedding, I should say, the change of life. There's so much change. Change can feel like death. So I'm kind of trying to speak to all the metaphors of death including the literal process. And what can you speak to that feels good in this moment about what you feel would be helpful to be aware of?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I don't consider myself at all a tantric guru. However, tantric gurus of the past, right? Sages, monks, they prepared to die. That was part of their life's purpose, was to prepare to die and learn how to die. And some of them chose when to die. They knew when that point was coming. And so I'm just speaking from, a modern person here in today's age. And I think that our society doesn't teach us how to die. We don't even talk about death in many circles and cultures because it's too scary. Again, that discomfort. And so when we don't teach the younger generations, I think if we go back like a few generations, even, death was taught more.
Mm-hmm.
We were involved with death more
Mm-hmm.
versus today. And the other experience that I'm going off of is I do have a death doula certification. I have sat with people dying, however, just my inner circle and animals. And I've helped people prepare for that passage. However, I have not sat with people outside of my outer circle of family and close, intimate friends. Um, so in Tantra, we bring in life, right? Vitality and the joy or the peace or the happiness and bringing in the elements in the breath. And so learning to release them in the opposite way, can be really scary. Earth Tantra offers a death retreat. That's a very advanced retreat. You have to go through Earth Tantra retreat level 1 and level 2. And then if you want to come to the death retreat, you can. Um, it can be a very scary experience just to even explore. I think almost everybody that comes to that retreat, there's a lot of like curiosity and mystery. And when we move through the process and there's a ceremony with a guided meditation of instead of bringing in the elements of the breath, we are letting it go. And that process itself can bring up a lot of emotion with that transformation that you were talking about of, maybe meeting the ego or an out of body experience or an overwhelmingly, and I don't mean in a negative way, sense of peace after that practice. And so I think preparing yourself for whatever it is, there's so many different ways to transition into the next life, whatever it is that you believe or not, can be abrupt or a long process. I think just really even talking about it helps us bring peace and normality around the process, I think is really important versus not talking about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that topic up. It's so important, I feel.
Feel like it really is. Just processing that. I like that you said normality. I wish it was more normalized to talk about that regularly and have really open-minded, open heart conversations around learning from each other, since it seems like we've all really been sterilized in this modernity time and this age of maybe 100 years. Because I know, like at antique stores, you can find they're supposedly really rare now, but you can find photos, old photos of people taking pictures with their beloveds in the photo. And imagine how rare it was just to take a picture, period, 100 years ago, or be like beyond that. And and so there was just, we know that's evidence for how the people were with people way longer in their experience of already have been breathing and left their last breath, left with their last breath, and stayed with the body longer and stayed with the presence of that experience longer. And I know we're in these modes of maybe we get a week or two of bereavement leave from work if we're lucky, and or we just have to take time without pay. And so there's always this essence of time, and we got to move on things. And with all that said, I guess speaking to that modernity, if you'd be willing, how would you like your experience to be if it could go your way? In
Mm.
in birth doula training, there's like create your birth plan. Don't get attached to it, but if we could normalize people creating a death plan, how would you like yours to be, to give us an example?
Yes. And from this, because I've played with this, have written things out in the past, do I have notification? Like, what is the time frame on this?
Mhm. Ooh, well, let's say let's say you have let's say you have a month.
A month. Oh my gosh. I've never been given a
I
month
know you,
before.
from what I know of you, like you're so organized, you're really good at planning stuff. I'm really curious now where
A month.
how extensive you would get, but
Ah,
if you want to take it to a day, that's all.
like a month is so complicated because then there's so many people I would love to see.
That's
But yeah, so okay, so a month. Um I absolutely love my family. I've been gifted siblings, amazing parents, aunties, uncles. Um, I think spending time with my family would be first. And, of course, there's like places I love to go, but I feel like I've traveled the world like so much that I would love if everybody could come here to my home. I love my home on my farm. I find a lot of peace here and the energy on the farm. And there's a lot of really beautiful imprinting of the ancient ones that walked this land before, and spending time with my beloved. If I was able in that month, um, maybe a couple of my favorite local hikes. Um, I would probably turn off all my technology. Maybe just communication with my family when um, when things happen in my life that might have like a lot of chaos. I bring it back to just my inner circle of people. I love everybody, um, but I think what matters most to me is just my inner tight circle of family and my partner. So yeah. Um, and I feel like I have peace around death. I feel like I have peace around death. And it's kind of exciting at the same time to know what that process is going to be like. My father actually flatlined for quite some time. And it's amazing that he's alive. It's also amazing that my mother is alive for things that my parents have been through. They're no longer married, they've had their own near death experiences. My father actually died, came back. Um, and and my father always told me since my early 20s when he had that experience that there's nothing to fear. And so I have some peace around it. And I know that my body will, if it goes in that way, will flow how it's supposed to flow. And I trust that process.
Mm. Yeah. Imagine how many of us are maybe processing that question for ourselves. Thank you for being open to share your perspective on that, and Yeah, and then again, I think it's important to note that like it's a metaphor too. You know, there's many phases of life that feel like death in an experience, and how do we experience that transformation at that phase of our life? So a divorce can feel like a death experience, you know, so many different things, a loss of major impact. And how do you, from that book of that Lama Yishi wrote, I remember towards the end really talking about like that last day, and like when you're sitting with that experience, uh, what do you feel would be one of the most helpful breathing practices? I know we work a lot with belly breathing, and but any things in your trainings or things that you could share as a tool for if you're in that experience, it's on your last day, and you're consciously releasing, is there a breathing practice that you would recommend or suggest as an opportunity?
I mean, belly breath is always a great breath to come to. It's the breath that we're born with, the breath that we sleep with in a sound sleep overnight, right? It's a healing breath. And it's also the breath that most of us will take as our last breath. So, belly breath is a beautiful breath. Um, and then maybe one that I would add on to, that I know resonate with a lot of tantric practitioners or tantra family members, community members, is tantric breathing. So whether that's root to heart breath, root to crown breath, advanced tantric breath. Um, so when we die, we also release the elements as well. So releasing the earth and the water in our body, that fire, and then the air. And I think in that process of letting go, we can maybe explore that area a little more if we know basic tantric breath, root to heart breath, because each of those spaces on our body represent one of those four elements. Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yeah. Imagine people learn this in school from a really young age. They learned this breathing, these different types of breathing practices, and that was very normalized to experience regularly, breathing consciously and being aware of what it's doing in the body, and being aware of how it's helping us show up with our presence every day. I I truly imagine that is possible, because every time we share this message, every time we talk about it, uh, we're releasing it to the morphic field. I really like Rupert Sheldrake's teachings on that. And so there's a modern psychology, collective consciousness, possibility, or the consciousness of Gaia, our Earth, planet, Aluna. I've heard many names, different names. We can breathe, we can feel into that awareness of what that possibility would feel like. And when we're aware of that, we have more awareness of how to appreciate our time, because we don't know, it is a
Mm.
mystery how much time we get. And and with that, it brings back why and how through these practices we can make love with the moment, with the breath, with each other as we're creating. So some people refer to Kundalini. The Coyopa is a word from the Mayan lineage. This, to me, it's referring to the same thing. And what are you most excited about with your Kundalini energy right now? What's present for you that you're really excited about with that preciousness of time to
Mm.
create and build? What's coming up for you?
Mm. Probably the excitement and the movement of energy into the unknown, because we don't know what lies in the next day. And it could be something completely awful too. So living the life in the present, each day at a time, each moment at a time, even. Um, but I think what excites me, and this feels really good to share, is the aging process, right? Yeah. So I'm 52 and I'm in my autumn queen years. If you're, some people might be familiar with maiden, mother, crone kind of years. There's this new one, autumn queen years, forest queen, between mother and crone because we're living longer. Sometimes childbirth is delayed or not having children is a choice. And so all these different things and that kind of play into that kind of newer phase of life in between. And I took a rite of passage with my one of my beautiful mentors, Susie in Eagle, Colorado. And um, yeah, really embracing the aging process. And I'm really excited. Like, what am I going to be like when I'm 80? I don't know. I hope I'm like still hiking, mountains and stuff. I don't know, maybe not, but um, yeah, yeah, the unknown and excitement of moving with life.
Mm, yeah. It seems like as we presence ourselves, there's also that guidance. There's a sense of guidance. How do you get, when you're feeling really spun out, how do you, when you're like really trying to figure out your next step, like, how do you
Mm.
connect to your guidance into feeling more
Mm.
clear with that trust?
Sometimes it just takes time, right? Like sometimes we like force something to happen next, and the universe is like, oh, hell no. We're gonna put this in front of you, and you just have to stop for now. um, so wait, what was the what was the question?
Kind of like what are your practices to help you connect to your guidance?
Mm,
Get clear to feel that trust.
okay, yes. I always like to come back to an oldie but goodie in the Earth Tantra family. Stop, connect, listen, and trust. Listening to your intuition, but not just like moving throughout the day. I'm listening to my intuition. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but again, maybe an overused phrase. And I'm not gifted with this like intuitive gift that some other amazing people on this earth have. I purposefully have to stop, leave my mind, and really connect with the sensations of what my body is telling me. I really try to look more deep within versus without and what feels good, because I know even if I'm guided through a message within nature, that's going to enter my body and give me a good feeling of a yes. And sometimes those messages just come up organically and really unexpectedly, and even complete opposite from what we want to fit in a box and structure in our head. So, yeah, these are all such amazing questions, Angeluna. Thank you. I love this. I feel like it's one of our talks.
We've had many times where we've had check-ins and I'm like, can I just ask another one? I really have appreciated your perspective along this journey for me. And at the time that I met you, it was a big transition for me. And it just, you, again, as I've said, like I really felt your nurturing and yet like your healthy boundaries and your willingness to be like, I think she's gonna catch up. You didn't say it at the time, but you were like, I think she's gonna, it's like without speaking the words, you allowed for some space for me to learn it on my own without with the key words that were going to help me kind of like some cues and some keywords that kind of stuck with me so that while I was doing certain things or going deeper into certain questions, finding out like no one can really answer these things for any of us, you know, but yet we all have these perspectives. And at a time when we're alive, that there's over 8 billion people on Earth, uh, there's just so many different ways to look at things. And you've been very generous with being able to and willing to nurture curiosity and invitation into more growth, even in a playful way. And we've said this so many times. Like I have said, God, I wish we were on a podcast. I wish we could help share more messages around like there are experiences we can go into even if we're afraid and face them with courage, face them with the awareness that there's many forms of support. And so um yeah, there's so much, but I also want to leave room for people to maybe respond to anything or questions that they may have. So if you have any questions, I've seen some really interesting comments, but I wasn't trying to focus there yet, but things have been coming up, and I I think this feels like a good shifting time towards some comments or questions, interactions with people that are present with us. And thank you again for sharing your time live to be with us on this call. And again, acknowledging how we're from different parts of the country right now in these different places, and the technology has made this possible. And it's like a paradox of get away from technology to connect and experience Earth wisdom, and then bring that back and let's talk about it on technology. It's like kind of an interesting paradox that we are dancing together in. We're working together with how to help each other learn about balance and what is healthy, what didn't work for us, and what does work. And that's the beauty of these 8 billion perspectives right now, is we have an opportunity to share. So again, thank you for being here. And if you're watching this later and you're not live with us, may you feel like we had you in mind, that we are hoping that maybe more curiosity will come through, that you can reach out to Tara and feel into what maybe more you can go into experientially through this Earth Tantra experience. And we have several 500 teacher hour students on, so just thinking about maybe ways we can talk further in circles. So
Yes. Can I say something really quick before we take questions, whether live or written? Um, Angeluna, so yeah, so we met back in 2017
yeah,
and 17 and she like called me and was like, "Oh, can we schedule time to talk?" Or did you just call me blindly one day? Can you talk now? And we
we
started
scheduled,
talking.
we scheduled.
Okay. So we scheduled a time to talk, and I don't know, it was like fusion instantly. And I think that conversation could have gone on for like 6 hours in itself. But I think I had something to do after a certain amount of time. And Angeluna, she's part of the 500-hour teacher certification students. I'm expected to graduate in September. And I just feel like over the years, you've asked some very like intimate questions, and I love it. I always appreciate your questions and the conversations that we've had, no matter how edgy they may have seemed at the time when asking them. And I really appreciate your heart and your curiosity and your bravery to ask some of the questions that we've had and conversations over the years. So thank you.
You definitely made it a safe space. It's yeah, I was really hoping to meet more people open to these. To me, it's just it feels like we're all kind of playing with this vibe of existential crisis to some degree or another, depending on how much we allow ourselves to doom scroll or see what's going on. And sometimes it just doesn't look good for the humans. It's like, dang, dude, we're really playing with fire here. Um, I don't know, I'm trying to say that in a light way, but like sometimes there's this existential threat that's very heavy, and then there's these other moments every day, especially when we get a chance to go outside, um, that we just feel the aliveness and the beauty, the timeless beauty that's always been here, that seems to speak and invite us back to, yeah, you can feel that fear, and there's a lot going on, and may you also feel nurtured by this space. It's like the humans came and laid all these stories of the drama and the trauma, and they're real, they're not, they're valid, but it's just, maybe there's a time where we're gonna witness those clouds, those dark clouds of doom kind of float away, and the sun, the beauty is more obvious, and it happens in phases. I'm sure it comes in waves. And may we find each other through this technology, this world wide web, this electronic web that's weaving us together. It's an opportunity to share our stories, share our wisdom, share the piece of the puzzle that our perspective brings. And thank you again for the way you've just really helped us do that in your cohorts and in our
Mm.
retreats. It just feels really good. I know Frank and I, when we've wanted to go on a lot of these trips, like it's really scary and there's a lot of resistance, and I almost don't go every time. And then
Thank you for sharing. Making it real. You're making it real. There's probably people that have been on this that are on this call or that will hear this in the future. Like, I don't want to go because they're too scary. Thank you for making it real.
I've almost canceled like almost every time, and I've even canceled a few times. There's like, I've just, it's like just resistance after all these forms of resistance coming through, and it's so interesting how you hold that space that's consistent, and it's an opportunity to to really just get real with ourselves. Like, am I really ready now? Because the opportunity is here. And I just saw Claire posted, may we find each other. And I really hope that that ripples out, because um, we need each other. We need each other's perspectives. And so having guidance is an opportunity, it's a blessing. And you've always said too that you don't have all the answers, or you've helped us go back to ourselves so many different kinds of ways that you creatively do that. And so thank you for that too, because that feels like really good guidance too. And so uh, I'm hoping maybe we have some questions that feel, if you want to either raise your hand if I can see you. I don't know if I can see everybody, or if you want to put the hand up, or you want to put it in the chat. Let's see. Does anybody have a question? Oh, wow, we have a lot more people. Awesome, awesome.
I can't see everybody either because I'm on my phone. I can only swipe once. There's like six people. And I want to, if the person that's from St. Augustine, Florida here, is it Eddie,
Yes,
Betty?
yes, I saw that.
Yes, my father lives in St. Augustine. So
Oh,
when I
really?
saw that pop up, yes, so I go to St. Augustine from time about once a year.
Oh,
Hmm.
fantastic.
Yeah. Good to see you. You
You
popped
too.
up.
Oh, by the way, I just registered for your June retreat.
Oh,
So I will
yes.
see you in June.
Yes. I'm excited to meet you.
I'm excited to meet you too.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Hmm.
Awesome. Any
I'm not-
questions? No? Anybody want to pop off a mute and ask a question live? And I don't have my glasses on, so I
There's
can't read.
comments. There's a lot of really sweet, positive comments, and that feels so good. Support.
Ah,
And then,
I'll jump on really quick if I may. So I started my what I call my awakening after being engulfed in technology for years, to the point where that was my business, and I actually sold that business to get away from it and get out of it. Um, and that was about the 2015 timeframe. And I had partaken in my first taste of Tantra back then. And over the years, I have participated in a number of different events. But the way that you had expressed the concept of Tantra with the earth is something that is so foreign to anything that I've heard before. Um, but it's so vital to now have that awareness to where I'm looking back as you're talking through this and I'm going, oh yeah, oh yeah. And I have all of these aha moments that I never correlated to that experience. You know, I'm at an event and maybe I'm laying naked in a stream, right? And it was just, oh, but I was always in my head and not really getting into my body with the earth. I might get into my body when I'm with someone, you know, doing a practice. But when I was in those moments of participating with the earth, I was so in my head, I forgot to be in my body. And when you express that feeling of feeling the pulse of the earth, it's one of those things that's I know I could do it if I'm consciously aware or if I'm opening myself up to disconnect from everything else and just feel that and immerse myself in that, I know I will feel it. I just know I will. And so I would just want to thank you for bringing that awareness to me because it really has kind of shifted my whole focus on where do I want to go with this? Where do I want to go with my training, with my education, with my journey? And then what do I want to do with bringing that to my tribe, my community? So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for that reflection. And yes,
It's juicy.
it
It's the
is. It's
best way I
so
can say.
juicy.
It's juicy.
It's juicy. Yes. hmm Yeah. I know there's people on this call that are hearing or they're like, oh yeah. I'm so excited to meet you in person in June. Yep. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Any other questions? If you want to post them, I can keep my eye there, but I did have one. Well, maybe there might be another question coming through. Going into that topic of sitting with somebody, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. Sitting with somebody who's in that transition experience, do you have any advice for sitting with?
Mm. hmm I think each situation is different too. Um, Listening to your voice within, sometimes silence and just being in the same room is enough. Um, I think it's important to make sure that we're not projecting our own needs onto the person that's passing. For example, my brother, who passed from cancer, it was a long process, and he didn't like to be touched, right? And so sometimes we feel like we have to touch the person that's passing. But in the entire time that my brother was passing, everybody just knew that he didn't like it, right? So I think, and sometimes when we pass, we might change as well. And I think it's important to continue. Um, so, for example, let's say we wanted to reach out and touch the person. We can still ask for permission. They're not gone yet. They're still aware on some level, even if they aren't responding. And I think the other thing is keeping yourself grounded and at peace is probably the most important thing, just to be there with your loved one that's passing, and every passing is different.
Mm.
It could be peaceful, it could be awful and traumatic. Um, my mother was in an awful car accident, and my stepfather unfortunately died on impact, and we didn't know if my mother was going to make it. And so being in it was a burn unit, and if you've ever been in a burn unit, it's a pretty traumatic space to even be in. And so even just being in the room with her, I had to find my peace around that. And one of the practices that I did constantly all of the time was root to heart breath. That I guess would have that pretty much saved me in being able to be with her and remaining grounded for her. And sometimes too, in those situations, if it's a traumatic situation, we may have to make decisions for our loved one. And so making sure that we're coming from that grounded space as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you for your ability to kind of bounce with these different topics, and it's interesting how life from one moment to the next can shift in vibes, and yet I was feeling a shift just as we went deeper into that. But I was really hoping, like, given that there's so much emotion around so many feelings of change right now, we're not only going through our own process, but we're also sitting with a lot of people in change. And sometimes we want to fix things, we want to say the right thing, and we just feel bewildered with, I don't know what to do. So sometimes we just shut down. And I thank you so much for that guidance and sharing that, because it feels so important right now. It feels like it's a part of a lot of people's experience that I've been hearing about and then personally experiencing. And just as we breathe into that and feeling into how we're all kind of sharing, some people say, like, after COVID, we were sharing a trauma together around planet Earth. And we got a chance to kind of go into timeout and process that a little bit, or just be in our own experience in that. And so we may, we're, because of this technology, we're sharing a lot of traumas across the planet at the same time. We're experiencing some really intense emotional experiences, and we're sitting with a lot of forms of death at this time. And so it's thank you again for being willing
Thank
to be so
you.
vulnerable with that.
Yeah.
And I'm still not seeing any questions, so I would say my
Okay.
last question that hopefully kind of transitions that vibe of how sobering and humbling our lives are sometimes. Like, the experiences remind us of what we're all going towards in some ways, and the feelings around that. I remember asking you this question at a retreat one time. Oh, I do see a comment that says Jason G had a question. Jason,
Jason? Who?
Jason G.
Jason Groves.
Oh,
I can't
you have
even
my
see you. What
Oh,
is
yes, yes,
Jason?
yes. Is it Jason? Do you want to ask your question, or would you like me?
Jason.
Sure, I'll ask the question. Tara, if you could only attend one more of your retreats ever again, which would it be and why?
Oh God. Jason. Hmm.
You knew I couldn't be nice.
Oh my gosh. Okay. This is a hard question to answer. Only just one more ever. I mean, I love ETR1. It's our signature retreat, death retreat. Eros Gamos, which is formerly ETR3's new. But I would say This one brings a lot of life to me, and I love guiding couples retreats. I would say ETR2 because that's the most edgy in different ways, even than the death retreats. And I think I've probably had, for me, is this for me? Like if I were to, or if other people were to?
This is for you.
For me, okay, definitely ETR2. Yeah, hands down. But only if you come.
Which is, you know, as I asked this question of myself, that's the one that came to mind. It's like, it's got to be ETR2, right?
Yes. And I have to say to everybody that's listening, this last ETR2 was this one last summer it was a really saucy ETR2. And I think the two most saucy ETR2s that Earth Tantra has ever seen, Jason has been to. So Jason, if you ever come back, I think if I just say, oh, and Jason will be at this one, it'll fill up in
Oh,
like a
wait. You
minute.
you can't blame me. You're half that equation.
Yeah. ETR2. Yeah. Mhm.
Thank you, Jason, for that question. I remember meeting at the first ETR in Arizona, and really impressed with your fire skills and all the other skills that you shared.
Well, thank you so much. I remember meeting you too. That was my first Earth Tantra experience as well. So yeah, we go back a long ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for people who aren't familiar, so we talked a little bit about ETR1. ETR2 is rewilding your primal truth. There's a clothing optional mud bath, which really freaks a lot of people out. There's some fun playfulness as well. And these days, the mud bath is at night because of our location instead of during the day, which could also open the doors to other people who might be scared. And again, clothing is optional. It doesn't mean you have to take off your clothes in the mud bath. And there's more sensual, conscious touch. And Tantra really weaves in models like Wheel of Consent and other things to move through with that energy and really creating a safe space. And I think one of the unique aspects about Earth Tantra is that our groups are pretty small. Sometimes there's just like 4 or 5 students, other times, and maybe 11 or 12 max. And ETR2 is specifically even smaller. So yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting how that brings out so much of our curiosity with our sexuality, our sense of that sexual energy, and how to face the awkwardness of just being able to be in each other's space. Sometimes we feel these vibes, but because we're trying to fit into the boxes of being professional at work and being appropriate in all these other contexts, it's like we shut it down because we have to compartmentalize ourselves. It feels like that sometimes, but I think there's a way of flowing every day with that. And so what can you say to kind of close this up as far as like I'm feeling like wrapping this bundle of this conversation around. I remember asking you at a retreat one time, speaking to the sexual energy that we get our sense of life force, our sense of vitality from, with that energy in mind, but how it weaves us into conscious living and dying. Because I remember one time asking you, like, why is sex and death so woven together? Which is one question in its own, which if that feels good to answer too, but when we're making it relevant to how we're wrapping this conversation and everybody present and everybody who may be watching later, what can you say to speak to that concept of how that sexual energy drives so much of our life, consciously living, consciously dying.
Oh, I don't remember you asking me that question at all. Maybe my answer is going to be completely different. But what comes to mind right now when we think of life force, and I'll kind of answer this in two different parts. Our sexual desire can be centered around seeking that orgasmic state, that blissful state, that curiosity, that excitement. And for those of you who don't know as well, our sexual energy is housed below the belly button in the sacral chakra. And then depending on which lineage, it could be just above it as well. And with that life force moving, seeking the blissfulness or the joy in life through creation. And then when we think about that orgasmic state and the act of sex itself through releasing, what's coming through right now is the process of dying. So when we die, and this has been recorded, we release huge amounts of our happy chemicals, dopamine, etc., to move us into the next state of releasing the body and to move on to whatever we believe is next. So, yes, birth, and we think coming out of the womb to death, it's all a cycle. Yeah.
And it may be like going through the birth canal into the mystery of next form.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like am I understanding correctly? Like there's an energy that's pulling us into it through, we say both experiences, but it's almost like continuously through the whole timeline of infinity. I don't know, who
Of
knows?
life, yeah. And then weaving in that orgasmic state.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Angeluna. Thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight and being present. And I'll let Angeluna close. It's not my job tonight, it's yours.
Well, on that really juicy note of this orgasmic state, may you go with orgasmic energy into life, into your restful state, into your dream state, into your morning tomorrow, and feeling into the preciousness of our time and gratitude for sharing your time. May this conversation ripple out in beautiful ways with love and wellness wishes. And may we all just take a breath together to feel into the releasing of this circle. The nurturing of what new thoughts, what new inspirations are coming through that you can take with you to your circles. And may we find each other again.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. This was really fun and really special timing. Thank you. Thank you for everybody who posted in the chat throughout the way. You had so many beautiful, positive comments. And thank you, Jason, for posting that question. And Omari helped me see it.
Mari. Mari.
Bye, everybody.
Bill and Karen, bye-bye.